Hawkins Horrors, a collection of terrifying tales from Netflix's Stranger Things, written by Matthew J. Gilbert. Chapter 5. Girls Just Want to Have Fun. Despite being inside a lab during the day, the students of Mr. Klein's third grade Earth Science class were staring into a lunar eclipse. The image of the full red moon glowed from the overhead projector onto a screen. The super blood moon is a lunar rarity that you'll be able to see over Hawkins tonight, and for one night only, Mr. Klein explained. It's not a total eclipse of the heart, but it is a total eclipse of the moon. He paused for laughter. None came. Most of the class couldn't care less about their teacher's painful references to radio hits, let alone this talk about some weird moon. But Sam cared. She was laser-focused on today's lesson, because of the invitations she received earlier that morning. As promised, she'd found it in her locker, a rolled-up scroll. Inside it were a compass, a knife, and a rhyming message carefully scripted in ink. Like the siren wails and a new night falls, we band together as the blood moon calls. While they drown in darkness, we are blessed by light. Join us and be born anew, forever and tonight, the daughters of darkness. Sam could barely contain herself. For months, she'd been watching them, a group of 4 older girls, a mix of juniors and seniors. They wore thick black lipstick, leather jackets, and fishnet fingerless gloves. They avoided pep rallies and PE like the plague. They went everywhere together. They were friends, sisters, witches. And now, after a lengthy courting period, they were inviting Sam to join them. Hearing the heavy footsteps of a hall monitor approaching, Sam hid the knife, the compass, and the scroll in her bag. She peeked at the forbidden objects throughout the morning, getting a rush each time, anticipating the night ahead. The bell rang, cueing the usual stampede to lunch, but Sam lingered behind. Sam stayed behind to admire the image of the blood moon a few moments longer. "Mr. Klein, what makes the moon go red?" she asked. "Oh, it's dust in the atmosphere and refracted light," he replied, a little startled that a student was pausing to ask a question. "In the Bible, it gets a bad rap as a sign of the apocalypse and the end times." No, no, Sam thought. It's not an ending, it's a beginning. It heralded perfect alignment of the planets, which acted as a magical gateway of sorts, perfect for rebirths, renewals, and inducting a newbie like herself into an established coven. Tonight Sam would join the Daughters of Darkness and find out exactly what girls like them did in the woods when no one was watching. She'd heard stories, of course. Everyone in school had. But she wasn't sure what to believe. Were they worshipping demons? Or sacrificing goats? Some kids swore up and down that the Gothic girls were responsible for all the spooky, unexplainable phenomena around Hawkins as of late. Soda cans floating through the air at night. Spontaneous fires breaking out near an abandoned cabin in the woods. But one of the daughters, Becca, had confided in her that none of that was their doing. She assured Sam that the kids who made those claims were burnouts, who also told tales of a little girl hiding in the woods who could supposedly move things with her mind. It all sounds so unreal, Sam thought. It's like something from a TV show. The daughters practiced elemental spells, Becca told her. Healing, binding, invoking the spirits. Things the modern witch could use to live her most fulfilling life. "It sounds more serious than it is," she remembered Becca saying. "We mostly do it just because it's fun." "You like fun, don't you?" Later, in the privacy of her bedroom, Sam underwent a major transformation. Off came the sweater and dowdy blouse, and on went the leather jacket, fishnet fingerless gloves, ripped pants, and combat boots. Everything in black, of course. In a haze of hairspray, she teased her hair up like Robert Smith, singer of The Cure, and applied so much eyeliner She looked like she could star in an old silent horror movie. Sam took one last look in the mirror to see herself, her true self, for the first time. In this quiet moment, the music coming from her stereo seemed to fade, and her mind began to race with doubts. What if this was all some elaborate prank? Or worse, what if the Daughters of Darkness were planning something more sinister for her, like using her as a human sacrifice? Isn't that what witches do? Sam thought. She'd seen the stories about satanic panic when her parents made her watch 2020. But Becca and the other girls weren't like that, right? They liked her, didn't they? Sam looked at her dark reflection. Well, which is it? She asked herself. We just sit here and let Mom use 2020 to scare us into never leaving the house again? Or do we act brave for once and at least see the blood moon? Sam's mind, like her face, was made up. She waited until moonrise and told her parents she was off to a study session with some friends. She chuckled to herself, as neither of those things was actually a lie. Once she was out of the house, she snuck her dad's lantern out of the garage and rode her bike straight to the woods. Becca had told her to find a maple tree with a very particular sign carved into it, a pentacle. Sam was to wait for them there. Using the coordinates and compass the daughters had enclosed in her invite, Sam found a dark cluster of trees surrounding a large maple tree. The moon's soft red light couldn't penetrate the thick treetops above, so she lit the lantern, throwing a kaleidoscope of light and shadows onto the wilderness around her with a swipe of her wrist. The lantern illuminated something right away. Something unusual. There, carved in the bark, was the encircled star symbol of the elements. Sam ran her finger over the grooves of the symbol, channeling a feeling that ran up her finger and down her back. She wanted to chalk it up to being in tune to some sort of naturally magical essence, but her gut told her a different story. Unease. Fear. It was impossible to avoid, standing all alone in the woods after dark. Since she'd arrived and laid her bike on its side, she had the gnawing feeling that something else was nearby, watching her. An animal, perhaps? She removed the knife from her bag and held it by the grip in her coat pocket, ready to strike, just in case. The sound of a whistle soon pierced the silence. Sam spun around to see if she could spot its source. Something materialized out of thin air right before her eyes. Impossible, Sam thought, seeing Becca appear from the shadows like magic. She blinked her eyes into focus, realizing that the lantern light was playing tricks on her. Becca had merely stepped out from behind a tree. Another girl soon appeared, then a third and a fourth. They carried supplies that ranged from normal, like Pepsi, gas station snacks, and a boombox, to downright bizarre. A live bird in a cage, and a fish in one of those plastic pet shop bags. That a knife in your pocket, or are you just happy to see us? Becca laughed. The other girls cackled too. These were the Daughters of Darkness. Sam hoped that in the flattering light of the blood moon, they wouldn't be able to see that she was far out of her comfort zone out here. She smiled. I thought I heard something, she told them. Well, we are in the woods, honey. There are little critters everywhere, Becca said. And in here, too, the girl holding the bird and the fish said. Her name was Tara. The other two girls were Nikki and Rachel, though it was difficult to tell them apart, as they spent so much time together. Welcome to, Nikki began, our coven, Rachel said, completing her thought. The daughters all stood in a line before Sam, holding hands. She didn't know what to do except watch as they looked up at the blood moon and chanted an incantation she didn't understand. Soon after, they fell silent, and Becca broke away to take Sam's hand in hers. Sam, we have divined your interest in us and have seen you inside your heart. You are one of us. The spirits have told us you will make a marvelous addition to our coven, and it is here, under the watchful eyes of the blood moon, that we will bind your power with ours. Do you accept us in return?" "Yes," Sam replied, her heart racing. "Do you invoke the spirit?" "Yes." "Then choose your tree and carve the symbol of the triple moon into it as a sign of your rebirth." Sam went to grab the knife in her pocket, but Becca offered her own. It was a larger dagger, with a curvy blade and ornate carvings in the handle. Becca rejoined the other daughters and waited. Sam circled each of the smaller maple trees encircling the pentacle tree. Upon closer inspection, she could see that some of them bore carvings of their own, no doubt from the other daughters' welcome ceremonies in the past. She wanted to be near them, but also wanted to set herself apart in some way. So she looked for a maple tree of similar height, but one just outside the area. Just then, as if somehow hearing her intentions, the blood moon showed Sam a path through the woods to a shrunken tree that was overshadowed by a mammoth pine nearly 20 feet tall. Though this tiny tree was shielded from the elements, it looked old and a bit withered. The taller pine had soaked up most of the sunlight and rain for itself, and left this orphan tree to grow in darkness. The branches had clearly adapted to a life in the shadows, and wore their scars proudly. Sam felt a kinship with it. She stepped forward and readied the dagger, hearing the daughters begin a chant. "With dagger thus, one with us. With dagger thus, one with us." Sam could feel her hand trembling with the weight of the lantern that would light her carving. With dagger thus, the stain of red moonlight reflected off the blade. "One with us." Sam thrust the dagger, but the moment the blade pierced the tiny tree, the bark crumbled away, revealing a hollow inside, too dark to see anything but rot. Sam peered into the tree's broken husk, curious. She raised the lantern for a better look. The black hole inside seemed to be moving. All at once, a cluster of nesting spiders, each one as big as Sam's hand, spilled from the tree. They moved in waves of 30, 40, maybe more. They were jet black in color, save for one obvious red hourglass shape on all their abdomens, reflecting light the way an animal's eyes do at night. "Black widows!" Sam screamed, her body going momentarily limp. Pop went the lantern as its glass case shattered on the ground. Becca's dagger also slid out of Sam's hand before she got her body to cooperate and pivot into a full-blown sprint, running toward the others. The daughters saw the incoming swarm and scattered further into the woods, breaking loose from each other's hands and ducking along separate paths. The world went so quiet for Sam, all she could hear were her own footsteps on the wet earth. Blood pumping, ears ringing. She nearly slipped when she imagined the little whiskery feeling of their spindly legs creeping along her neckline and down her blouse. She caught herself and got her footing at the last moment. Then she smacked the back of her neck and frisked her arms and legs. Call it instinct. Call it paranoia. Sam believed the spiders were pursuing her because her own senses were telling her that her skin was crawling. It wasn't. Sam kept running until her lungs started to burn and her legs could carry her no more. She soon came to a clearing and turned to make sure there were no arachnids on her tail. She saw only grass, branches, and damp, gloomy bushes. Exhausted, she let herself fall to the ground, huffing like she'd run a marathon. She hadn't been this tired in ages. Sweat formed on her forehead and ran down her face, making inky mascara tracks down her cheeks. Sam centered herself and took a look around. When had the trees thickened around her? The treetops were so thick, and the branches so tall. The blood moon had become obscured. That meant shadows. Shadows as far as her eyes could see. Sam had gotten away from the spiders, but she had also gotten away from the others. She was officially lost. At night, in the woods. This is not fun, she told herself. Nikki and Rachel were the first to find each other. "Oh my God!" they said in unison. Nikki took a breath. "I have been looking for you. Forever, Rachel blurted out. Yeah, same. The two girls held hands and followed a path, hoping to be reunited with the other daughters. Fortunately, they soon found their breadcrumbs in the woods, shreds of wet plastic strips on the ground. Eventually, this odd trail led them to find a dead goldfish where one shouldn't have been, on land. There were no ponds or creeks in this area of the woods. The poor creature had clearly been dropped in all the madness after its bag tore. It wasn't flopping. That time had passed. Nicky looked at Rachel, and as soon as she said, "Tara's going to be so Rachel finished her sentence. Upset about her fish? I know. She loves her animals. They soon discovered prints in the mud nearby, but the distance between the steps made no sense. The stride was much too long to belong to Tara. She was the shortest of the coven. These looked more like animal tracks. No hooves, no paws, just big feet with what looked like claws on the end. Sam backtracked toward the pentacle tree, keeping a watchful eye out for spiders. Thankfully, there were none. The coast was clear, save for two peculiar shapes in the tree line up ahead. Legs. They were dangling. She recognized the crazy striped pattern of the stockings. It was Becca. "Becca!" Sam called, running to see her perched on a thick tree branch high above. She expected some wisecrack to come out of Becca about how she'd gotten up there, or the last time she'd had to climb a tree, but Becca wasn't her usual self. In fact, she didn't acknowledge Sam at all. She just sat there, catatonic, with her mouth open, completely frozen in terror. "Becca? Are you okay?" Sam asked. "What's wrong? Did you get bitten back there?" Becca just kept staring off into the dark. "I saw something. Not a spider. Something bigger." "What do you mean? Like a coyote?" "No, this wasn't some animal. It didn't have fur. It had skin. In the moonlight, it looked like slimy skin." Sam helped Becca down from the tree. "Becca, did we summon something here tonight?" "We can't," Becca whispered. "We don't have any real powers. Not the way people around school think we do. We just come out here to act spooky and have fun." "Are you having fun?" "No." "Me either. I'll tell the whole school on Monday that we did a blood sacrifice and all kinds of creepy stuff, if your spooky rep is all you're worried about. No one has to know we're the ones who are scared. Now let's find the others and get the hell out of here." Elsewhere, away from Sam and Becca, and far from Nicky and Rachel, was an overturned bird cage with a tiny parakeet inside. Tara's. The cage rolled back and forth on the ground. The bird's constant flapping was what was making the whole thing rock. Strong enough to create motion, but not enough to force the latch open. The parakeet was trapped. It flapped its little heart out, clearly spooked by something nearby. Something that had the shadow of a man, but wasn't human. It stalked forward, effortlessly ripped the cage open with its claws. The bird's squeak was silenced the moment it rang out. Fangs tore through its delicate feathers, pulverizing its bone with a crunch. Tara, who loved animals dearly, would have been absolutely gutted by this, if she had still been alive. "At least the spiders are gone, right?" Sam said, trying to lighten the mood. The attempt at humor was lost on Becca. They walked a circle around the carved trees, waiting for the others to return. "We come out here almost every weekend," Becca said. "This is the first time I've ever seen black widows, or felt like something was following me. It must be the blood moon. What if it brought something with it? Like something bad?" "I thought the blood moon was a good thing. A gateway," Sam replied. They stopped walking. In a moment of clarity, Becca stared into Sam's eyes and spoke with a conviction she'd held in her voice earlier. "Something evil could have come through. Something that's been here since long before we showed up. Hey! Two voices rang out in the distance. They turned to find Nikki and Rachel running toward them with open arms, relieved to finally see some familiar faces. Becca couldn't control herself. She started crying as she hugged the other girls in her coven, grateful to whatever forces had brought them back here safely. Nikki and Rachel hugged Sam as well, including her in the reunion. Her ritual might not have been properly completed, but she was part of this coven now. "Where's Tara?" Becca asked. "We were hoping," Nikki began, as Rachel finished with the rest. "She was with you." Nikki handed Becca a shred of wet plastic they'd found on the ground. "We found this." "On the ground," Rachel overlapped. "Next to her fish." Becca and Sam exchanged a knowing look. A shared feeling of dread passed between them. "We need to get to the police," Sam said. "We're wasting time, when something could be really wrong." Becca would have agreed if she could answer. Her voice disappeared when she felt her throat tighten at the sight of something watching them. A shadow in the trees. "What? What is it?" Sam followed her gaze and saw it too. That gut feeling of unease came rushing back in an instant. It eyed them in a primal way, like a hunter sizing up its target. It radiated a seething rage and bloodlust that was not lost on the remaining daughters. They could feel its power. The girls froze, afraid to move so much as an inch while it held their attention. Then its head opened up like flower petals blooming. Its fangs were visible in the light of the blood moon. It was some kind of monster. Without so much as a word, the girls all took off running in one direction, back toward civilization. They could hear it pursuing them. Heavy footsteps, clomping in the mud, striding after them with a frightening speed. Then came its ear-splitting shriek. Sam could hear Becca and the other girls repeating something frantically. A spell of some kind. An invocation of protection. Or some sort of defense, she thought. Whatever it wasn't working. The creature was swiftly gaining on them. She could practically feel its hot breath, wet breath, on the back of her neck. "Whatever happens," Sam said, nearly out of breath, "it was nice to belong, even if it was for just a moment." Sam tried to keep up with the others, but felt her feet suddenly leave the ground. Something was lifting her by the back of her jacket. Becca realized they'd lost one of their own. She and the others slowed down, turning to see the creature toss Sam over its shoulder in one motion. "No!" she cried. "Run!" Sam called back, closing her eyes as the beast crawled toward her, about to pounce, moving in for the kill. She clenched her fist, feeling her fingers tighten around something in her pocket. The knife. She clutched the handle and forced the blade through her jacket. The tip pierced the creature's side as it tried to bear down on her. It let out a high-pitched squeal of pain. That was all Sam needed to flee for safety. With her heart beating in her throat, she sprinted as fast as her legs could carry her, in the direction of something safe, something familiar. The blood moon. It was indescribably beautiful. Its muted glow marked the vast darkness above with a giant red dot in the atmosphere, like a beacon back to the real world, as clear as the red marks she'd seen on the Black Widows. Only she wasn't scared this time. Instead, the view of the moon brought with it a strange warmth that rushed through her body in waves. Adrenaline. Hope. Sam eventually caught up with the remaining Daughters of Darkness on the side of the road. It was another tearful reunion, each of them sobbing for the loss of their sister Tara. Then came the overwhelming feelings of guilt, and then relief. Relief that they had somehow survived. They might have escaped the forest, but the girls knew they weren't out of the woods. Not yet. It was the dead of night, and they were in desperate need of a ride back to town, away from this doomed place, away from the creature that might be lurking in the shadows. The girls screamed at each car that passed, begging them to pull over. But the fact of the matter was, people in Hawkins were just too scared to pick them up. gothy girls wandering the street in the middle of the night were a big red flag to most drivers. The daughters soon resorted to standing in the middle of the road like a human chain, but that only forced cars to drive around them, honking furiously. Finally, after they hadn't seen a car for what seemed like an eternity, Sam was able to wave down a beaten-up beige minivan that was puttering by. She recognized the vehicle and the driver, and somehow, seeing past all the tear-stained makeup, the driver recognized her. "Sam?" the kind old woman asked, rolling down her window. "That you?" "Yes, Miss Charlotte," Sam said frantically. "Please help us. We're just trying to get home." "Of course, hon. All of you. Get in." Becca, Nikki, and Rachel piled into the back seat. Sam sat up front next to Mrs. Charlotte. "You girls really shouldn't be out this late, especially back this way. It's not safe," Mrs. Charlotte said, slowly creeping down the road. "What happened out there tonight? Do your parents know where you are?" None of the girls answered her, and rather than press the issue, she did the merciful thing and cut the silence by turning on the radio. Madonna soon broke through the static. Earlier today, Sam would have asked her to change the station, trying on a goth persona that wasn't really her. But after tonight, after all the fun of a near-death experience in the woods, she decided that the Daughters of Darkness weren't for her after all. Maybe she liked Madonna, and maybe she liked wearing pink instead of black. Maybe she liked being a square, a loner. Sam rolled down her window to let in some fresh air. She listened to Madonna sing about true love and first kisses, and she felt normal for a brief moment, until her eyes noticed a chain-link fence appear from seemingly out of nowhere. It barricaded the dark woods from this section of the road, and had ominous rings of barbed wire along the top. Had she been on the other side of this fence all night, and not once realized it? She looked closer at the scene as it unfolded before her at 35 miles per hour. There, on the fence surrounding the woods, she noticed a sign, one that clearly warned, "Hawkins Lab, private property. Stay at least 100 yards away." "Wait a sec," Lucas said, racking his brain. "It's been a while since anyone's gone missing that we know. Did you make that story up? I don't remember any gothy chicks at school named Sam or Tara." Max shot him a look. "Oh, been keeping tabs on all the available goth girls at Hawkins High, have we? That what you and your teammates do after practice?" "No, what? I was just," Lucas stammered, grateful that the lights were out so Max couldn't see him blushing. "Just checking up on your story. I'm interested in what you have to say." Erica swiped the flashlight from Max and shined it back on herself. "Let me get this straight. You guys have been making stuff up all night?" She then swept the light across the other faces in the store. "The witches? The sea monsters? The guy in the wall? None of that have ever happened?" The voices all came rushing out at once. A garbled mess of, "It's true!" and "Of course it's real!" and "It happened! Just ask so-and-so!" "Hey!" Erica shouted, quieting the group in an instant. She held the flashlight under her chin. "I'm done with make-believe kitty stories. Time to get an R rating in here. You want to hear something that's 100% absolutely scary, totally messed up, and completely true?" Erica took their silence as a challenge. "I'll tell you what I heard. Just don't argue, don't interrupt, and whatever you do,